Hello and welcome to the last word on All for United. Don't be alarmed, guys. I am hosting. I'm not quite sure why. So get your giggles and get your questions into the panel tonight. Look, it's been an absolutely brilliant result for the lads today. Everybody on the panel's buzzing. I've got a great panel as usual. So I'm going to get them to introduce themselves individually tonight. I'm going to do something a little bit different. So we'll start with you, Reese, and just introduce yourself. Give us a little bit about the game and how you found it.
Yeah, well, I'm one of the usual members on AFU, but it's nice to kind of just be chatting rather than hosting because it's tough sometimes hosting. Want to speak your mind, and sometimes you can't always do that. But I'm sure, Stu, you'll have a good go tonight, mate. In terms of the game, I mean, positive result. 4 wins now on the bounce. Got the 3 points. I don't want to. We'll talk about all aspects of the game. I want to sort of obviously just celebrate the win and celebrate the 3 points. I don't want to dwell on negatives, but there was some stuff in that I want to discuss in a bit, and I'm sure the rest of the guys do as well. I don't want to get over optimistic. There were patches in that game, large portions of that game where it wasn't largely convincing, and I'm still not convinced that we're playing to a style that Ten Hag wants us to play to. I still think it's kind of I've wrote some notes, and I still think it's a prime Ollie system at the minute where we're just counter-attacking and winning games that way. It's winning games, and that's where I said last time when Rangnick came in, that's where he massively failed when he ripped up Ollie's system really with the players that he had and tried to build his own system mid-season, and it catastrophically failed. Ten Hag realises he's got some players around him that he can work with and get the result. And he's getting results. It's working. So he knows he's got to gradually integrate these players into his system to be able to play the style that he wants to play. But he knows that isn't going to happen from game one. Tried to do that from the first couple of games, and we got punished for that. So we've got to work hard. That's what we've been doing over the last few games. But yeah, good 3 points. Not entirely a convincing performance, but in terms of the confidence levels now that the boys are showing and the pride and everything else and the work rate, it's just that in itself is fantastic to see, and he's putting some discipline in the team as well, isn't he? I think I was on a Spaces earlier on with Mr. Ton. I was listening in, and one of the guys on there said about the fact as well Ten Hag's kind of implementing this old style system in terms of, if you've been playing well, you stay in a team. And I thought, fair play. It's a good, you can't really knock that premise really. Everyone assuming that, I mean myself assuming that Casemiro would come straight into the team. But yeah, my dog just decided to just have a bark. I don't know if he agrees with me or not. There we go. But yeah, everyone assuming that Casemiro comes straight into the team, and why? We've won the last 3 before today, and there was every reason why McTominay should have started really. And to be fair to him today, I thought he was possibly the man of the match. I know Eriksen picked it up, but yeah, I thought he was equally just as good in many ways.
We'll touch on Casemiro in a bit. Rich, just before I come to you, the main man is back, Cal. He's been away for a couple of weeks, having a break. And that's why you've got this clown hosting as we speak. But let's bring him in. Let's bring him into straight. You're right, Cal?
Hello, everybody. You okay?
How you doing, mate? How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, good. How's things? I see my shells in good hands, clearly.
Well, I wouldn't say good hands, not with me. But I appreciate that. But yeah, it's good to see you, mate. Just before we carry on, then, mate, I want to hand over to Rich, if you don't mind, fella. Then we'll come to you, and then we'll go.
Yeah,
down.
go for it, mate. It's fine.
Rich, how you doing, mate? Welcome to the show. If you've not met Cal before, he's the usual host of this one. Yeah. So I'm just trying to hold it together for him. But yeah, just introduce yourself and just give us your thoughts on the game, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's cool. As you know, I'm probably one of the newest members, or the newest member of All for United. But going into the game today, personally think that we need to start controlling games better. Obviously, we're happy that we got the win. But for me, I think we give the opponents too much time on the ball. Yeah, we're pressing them, but we need to actually take the game by the scruff of the neck sometimes, and we just need to look after the ball better, control the games. I think at times our defence are working a bit too much. We're a bit over-reliant on them. But yeah, we just need to control games. But it was good to get the win. Obviously, it was good for Antony to start today and obviously get a goal. Hopefully, Rashford can continue what his goal scoring form anyway.
Yeah, no, excellent. Well, Cal, let's come to you then, old friend. I take it you've watched the game today.
Yeah, no, I watched it before. I mean, I spotted a couple of things like Isabel said. I saw Reece say before he didn't think it was the best performance. I actually thought both teams played really well. I don't think United played amazing, but I don't think Arsenal played amazing. But I thought they both sort of cancelled each other out. I thought it was a little bit end to end. It was quite feisty as well, which is what we all wanted to see, especially in the olden days of Man United and Arsenal. So it was kind of a game that I was excited for, especially after United won the last 3, Arsenal won the last 5. I think it kind of gave it a little bit of an edge. So I thought it was a really good game today, and I think both teams deserve credit. Getting on to in terms of the actual football, I thought both teams played really well. It's always fun to. It's always fun to watch the fans of Arsenal cry about certain things, considering they seem to paint this narrative that they're going to get invincible and that all their decisions go against them, and that they always favour United. They always seem to use certain games about it, but then forget every single decision that went their way as well, like i.e. 2004. But in terms of an actual football match, I thought today was a very good game.
Yeah, me too.
I never ended up actually getting a ticket for today, which was a bit unfortunate. But watching it in the pub, I thought the first 20 minutes in particular, Man United were definitely on top. But one particular thing I noticed was the Man United centre backs in particular, so Martinez and Varane. The old saying, Stu, was let them know you're there, and Martinez let Jesus know he was there immediately, and then straight after Varane did the same thing. It's quite nice to see that we seem to have a partnership that is establishing itself, and to the detriment of Varane, not Varane, Lindelof and Maguire and others. It seems to be a case finally now that we seem to have found a bit of a settled partnership, and I hope it stays now. Don't get me wrong, obviously Europe's coming up and games are coming in thick and fast, so I do expect to see Maguire starting again. I haven't got a problem with it. I think against the so-called lesser teams, like especially in the Europa League as well, I think we'll see quite a few rotations. I can't imagine seeing Eriksen starting every game in the Europa League. I can't imagine seeing Antony and Rashford and all these starting to all these games, but especially in the league at the minute, which seems to be our main priority in getting back where we need to be. I thought today was a real test, especially after Arsenal started the season. Obviously, they were in good form. They were probably in high spirits. And the fact that we've managed to slow that down and halt that has probably given them a little bit of a reality check. I think United obviously started the season so poor. That's kind of my only frustration, that these signings that we've made haven't come in sooner, because I do wonder with these signings and this spirit coming into the team, that if we'd have made them before the Brighton game, would we have had those issues? Would we have had the performances against the likes of Brighton and Brentford where it was just poor and the atmosphere was so toxic? And I'm glad, in a way, I'm kind of glad, because it's forced the club's hand, but it was also nice to see today, especially outside the ground, that there was still such a high atmosphere to get the owners out, and the transfers that have happened haven't halted that. So all in all, I was really happy with today. I mean, the result was great. I thought the performance was actually quite good. I'm not really too worried about the performance. I thought it was very good. So and I think there was so many people on Twitter worried about the fact that McTominay was starting over Casemiro. A lot of people worried about Rashford starting again. I think what people need to realise is Ten Hag sees these players inside out every single day in training, and he probably is worried that Casemiro's probably not quite there yet. The fact that Antony's coming to the team straight away shows his trust that he's had in him for so long, whilst that Ajax come straight into the team whilst he's come to United. I think people just need to stop wanting to be right so often and want to be proved wrong instead. Like if I ever say a player's not good enough, I always hope that I'm proved wrong. I never want to be proved right by saying something on Twitter by getting a load of likes like other people do. If I'm proved wrong, I'm happy to be proved wrong. But I'd probably say McTominay was one of the man of the matches today. I don't think many players put a foot wrong today, to be honest, and I was chuffed with the performance that we had. So, and we're now 5th behind Brighton, which is pretty crazy to say, which is huge credit to them. But I'm really happy with today, and I'm happy with the last 3-4 games.
Excellent. Well, Marcus, I've got this coming up because I know your thoughts on McSauce, so to speak. And James says that he obviously surprised him today. He thought he'd done pretty well in the last 3 games. I like his comment about knowing when to foul. Sometimes as a player, as an ex-player, I get massively frustrated with that because he does give needless fouls away. But there was 1 or 2 occasions where he did put in some what we call professional fouls. Just wonder what your thoughts are, Marcus, on McTominay's performance today.
Yeah, he was excellent. He wasn't personally my player of the game, but he was up there, to have 100% pass accuracy in a game against Arsenal, an Arsenal team who are 5 games unbeaten, mind you, who are 3 years into their rebuild with Mikel Arteta, have good synchronicity and chemistry. It's really impressive. When you apply the context and look at the bigger picture, it's really impressive, considering most people think that, Scott McTominay isn't good enough to be a Premier League footballer. 100% pass accuracy is pretty good for somebody who apparently doesn't have the skill set to be a Premier League footballer. So, yeah, fair play to McTominay. He played really well. The thing is about what Callum said, it's 100% spot on. I feel the same way about being proved wrong about players. I love being proved wrong because it means Manchester United are doing well. And whenever you criticize a player, I think people love to paint Manchester United fans with the same brush. Because I had someone on Twitter the other day saying to me, I reacted badly to the team sheet, and they were like, "Well, what? You want Ten Hag out now?" And I was like, "What? When have I said that? I have not said I want Ten Hag out. I was just saying that I don't think Scott McTominay should have started. I would have rather played Casemiro." That doesn't mean I'm not happy when we win the game. That doesn't mean I'm not going to give credit where credit is due. So, yeah, man, fair play to McTominay. He played really well today.
No, I thought he had a solid game. I mean, look, I thought he was a liability the first 10 or 15 minutes, if I'm being honest. He was rushing around a bit like a headless chicken, and sometimes you can't afford to do that in any game at any level. But once he found his feet, found his rhythm, I thought he put in a really good performance. So, Mr. Tom, my man, thanks for joining us again. Look, you are the Antony expert of AFC. you really are. When myself and Reese and Cal were on a show when Cal was hosting a few weeks ago, and we were asking you about Antony, and you gave us a glowing reference about him. Now, you know me, Mr. Tom, honest as the day's long. I thought he was excellent today, but I thought he overtried. I thought he overplayed.
He definitely did.
On 1 or 2
He scored. Are you overtried?
Oh, Cal's back. Everybody, Cal is back.
Sake, man, stop nitpicking, Stu.
I know he's back. What did you see from Antony today that you've already seen before, and what do you expect moving forward?
I love that. Everything that I said about him, about high intensity. He's got that temperament. I remember, Stu, I think I was on a panel talking to you about it. Tracking back, helping his fullback. He done all those things that, a winger should do. Yeah. Yes. So there was moments where it looked like he was trying to be flamboyant and just instead of letting it come natural, but there was moments I'm like, oh, like the cheeky part when he had the 2 players in the corner, not make it back like on the back of his heel to Dallo. Dallo put the cross, and I was like, oh, saucy. You can tell he wanted to try to excite the crowd. You could tell that's what he wanted to do. Once it comes natural to him and he's not trying, I think there's a player there, man. You can tell he wants to achieve things. He's got that temperament. He's hungry. Listen, I was just ashamed he came off early, but you could see he gassed out. There was a point, I think he was working hard a lot. I literally see it. I was like, oh, I think Ten Hag's going to take him off. I could see where he just was tiring. But yeah, man, I'm happy. I'm happy for the win. Overall performance, we could have done a lot better, if I'm honest. Midfield, once again, I've said this before, Stu, the midfield was just too open for me, especially that second half. It showed me, and then like there was a spell I could see like they was getting into the game, and I think he made a sub for Cristiano Ronaldo. At that time, I just felt like he should have made a sub for a midfielder at that time. And then Arsenal went on to score, and then he made the sub for the midfielder, and then obviously we went on to win the game. But the midfield still concerns me, and I know everyone's happy about Scott McTominay, and I know everyone's praising Eriksen, and Bruno got the assist. But that midfield is too open, can't control a game, and it's been this way for the last couple of games now. And Ten Hag keeps alluding to it. We need to keep better possession of the football. We need to have more control. And he said the first 10 minutes is the best I've seen from this team in how I want to play football. So that's why when I hear people say he wants to play in the transition, no, he doesn't. He wants to control the game, but unfortunately, he can't. He doesn't have the whole personnel to do it. That's what he wants to do. But I'm happy. I'm happy for the win, innit? We won.
We all are.
I'm happy, bro. I'm enjoying.
We all are. So me and Reece and good old Marcus, we were on a space pre-kickoff. We were talking about Casemiro, and we're actually talking about the midfield. And you're absolutely right. The substitution of Ronaldo absolutely flummoxed Arteta. It's so much so that we suffocated their middle. Their midfield completely, and then it was downhill from them. So, Reece, we spoke about Casemiro, didn't we? If you remember, and I advocated Casemiro starting. Obviously, we then heard from Ten Hag about why he didn't start Casemiro and why he was playing Scott. Do you see Casemiro going in against Palace away? Number one. And number two, if Casemiro does go in, can you see either Eriksen or Bruno stepping out the side and McTominay staying in, or do you see it straight swap for Scott?
I think if he's got any sense, he'll. I mean, it was odd today, wasn't it? That McTominay and Eriksen seemed to be sitting deep, so he seemed to be playing two defensive midfielders, which is quite odd, really. But I suppose he expected Arsenal to have quite a lot of the ball, so he wanted to just be a little tighter there. But no, I think it'd be a straight swap, and I don't know. I've got a funny feeling he's going to use Casemiro for the European match, which I think is Sociedad, isn't it?
Yeah, Thursday.
Yeah. I've got more of a feeling that he'll play.
There, by the way, so come say hello.
You are sorry,
I'm going to the game on Thursday, so if you want to say hello.
All right, yeah. Well, I think he'll play Casemiro. I start Casemiro on. He's going to make some serious swap changes on the. Is it Thursday? Did you say? Is it Thursday? Yeah. Thursday the 8th. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I just think he'll stick with his Premier League 11. He'll stick with the same team, the same formation until he gets to a point where it's getting a little found out. And Fergie was always quite keen on that. You know, whenever he went to a competition, he was quite loyal with that team. A cup run, European game, he'd stick with the same back four, stick with the same team. He'd rotate it, going into different competitions, but he'd stick with that team. Maybe he was a little guilty at the latter stages, maybe going back with his faithful 11, but I think generally he sort of swapped and changed it. And there's no reason to change it at the minute. So I think Casemiro is likely to come in that game, and he'll probably swap for Scott. He'll give that 11 today a good break, or the majority of them a good break up until the next game against Palace, which is a Sunday, so they'll get a really good break. They'll get a full sort of 7 days on most of them. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Casemiro came on, and when he came on for his the other day, his first couple of touches were brilliant. Like, I thought, wow, okay, he's like a level up here.
Not today.
Today it was like, wow, he's cold. He didn't even did this guy warm up before he came on. It was like, wow, he's really like leggy and cold. It was odd, really. I mean, generally, I think he's got probably a little bit of an headache in that midfield to some degree in terms of how he wants to play, but then how he's kind of handcuffed, like Mr. Ton said, in terms of how he probably should play for now until he gets the kind of right personnel. So, but that's not a bad thing.
Do you know something, Reece? I totally agree with you. Rich, I want to get your opinion on this if I can. We all noticed the freedom that Odegaard had and how dangerous he was. He was running in between the lines beautifully, stepped in, as a 10, fantastic. And his vision, his speed of thought, his passing, it was absolutely brilliant. Going back to what Reece was saying and Mr. Tom was saying about midfield control, would you have thought if Casemiro had started, I'm playing devil's advocate here, by the way, and he was quite warm straight off the bat, he would have, cut that type of run out, stopped Arsenal's play through Odegaard, because Odegaard was particularly dangerous for 60 minutes today.
Yeah, I think obviously that's what he does best. He would have nullified that number 10, definitely. Only thing is, I think Roy Keane said it after the game as well, was for the amount of possession that Arsenal had, they didn't really trouble David De Gea. So you've got to look at it that way. They didn't really trouble him. So they had the ball as much as they did. But like you say, Odegaard was pulling strings. But if Casemiro was playing, I don't think he would have been able to do that. I just think because of who we had playing in the midfield, that gave him that freedom to actually do what he was doing.
Yeah, no,
I was just going to say, Callum, as well. I think, sorry, Callum. You're coming to Callum, aren't you, before Callum speaks, is what I meant to say. I think Fred made a difference when he came on. I think he really did make a difference. And I think he's likely to see Casemiro and Fred and see that partnership, because that's the partnership we've all kind of been talking about since Casemiro's come in. We're likely to see that in that.
Do you find that? Sorry, do you find that he would actually drop Eriksen? I think obviously Eriksen coming to Man United, I don't think he was ever going to be someone to sit on the bench. So I would see that he would start a lot of the games. So I think it would be, who would have to sit out would be McTominay or Bruno, if you look at it that way.
I think I swap it completely in that midfield. I let the lads speak and everything, but I'm surprised how much he's been used, if I'm honest, in terms of not in terms of starting. I think he's played well enough to start. He was fantastic today, but I think in terms of the amount of time in each game that he's played, I think he's played pretty much a full 90 for the last 3 or 4 games. It's like, wow, it's quite a lot. It's quite a lot of dependency on Eriksen, so he does need a break, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so you guys have given me an interesting question, and I'm going to give it to Cal, because I like to give Cal the tough ones. And you're both absolutely spot on. The way I saw the game today was, the same as Mr. Ton and the same as Reece, a massive problem for us in terms of control. And I fear we will, away from home against a Palace team that's really industrious, there's going to be a real problem for us in the middle about control. So, Cal, we've spoken in the past about the enigma that is Bruno currently. I'm not talking about Bruno when he started, but currently today, and Eriksen. And is there a suggestion that maybe we should take one of those out of the equation? Who would it be, and why would you make that change?
I mean, I think the main thing to note at the minute is what seems to be happening is the fact that Eriksen and Bruno are both in the team seems to be working. They're both playing well. I personally feel, Bruno scored last week. I don't think he did too bad today. I believe he set Rashford up for one of the goals as well. So at the minute, I don't see the need to take one of them out. I think what's happening is working. Ten Hag clearly likes to stick with a setup that's working, like you've mentioned. But at the end of the day, I think what we need to remember is this team isn't going to play week in, week out. And at the end, and in the very close future, there's going to be a case where, obviously with Europe coming up, games coming up thick and fast, there's obviously the international break coming up. So the team is going to change. And I think we need to just bear that in mind. The team is going to change. And I think that it was a really good example, that, to be fair, Stu, in terms of the likes of, the Palace away. The best way I describe that is this team is still currently very early on in its sort of journey, I guess, if you want to say it like that. Obviously there's still signings to bed in. There's still an identity to get into the players, a philosophy, if you want to call it that, I guess. But there's still a lot of work to do with this team. And the main thing that we need to really be is patient. And the fact that we've won 4 games in a row is a huge credit to the players and to Ten Hag. The team isn't going to stay the same. And there will be weeks where we see the likes of Eriksen come out of the team. And there'll be weeks where we see the likes of Bruno come out of the team. Like, obviously, the captain, Maguire, he's not been in the team for the last 4 weeks. And there will be weeks where he's back in the team and the likes of Varane or Martinez won't be in the team. There's going to be a lot of chopping and changing. There's still going to be a lot of tactics that we need to fiddle with. There's still going to be a first 11 that we need to fiddle with to find what we need. And obviously what we've got at the minute is working, but effectively, we still need to remember that it's a very early stage of the journey that we're on with Ten Hag, and you know, there will be bumps in the road, there will be losses still to come, there will be draws to come, there'll be points drops, and either or will lose out in terms of Eriksen and Bruno, but there'll be so many other parts of the pitch that will be losing out. You know, that Shaw's still got to come back into the team. Wan-Bissaka will come back into the team at some stage. We're not going to see the likes of Antony and Rashford all the time. Martial still to come back from injury. So to focus on those two, I think at the minute, I get the point of it, but the thing that we need to focus on the most is that I think is it is still a very early stage in the I suppose in the timing of Ten Hag reign at United, and there is still going to be bumps in the road, and there's still going to be so much that we need to chop and change and fine tune into the team and to get the tactics into the players. And as long as I think a majority of fans, and I think a majority of fans will be, but as long as a lot of people are patient and understand what's going on at the moment, I don't think a lot of people have an issue with whoever starts in terms of whether it's Bruno, Eriksen, or other parts of the pitch.
No, it's hard to disagree with that. We've had this conversation before, Mr. Ton and Reese. We've spoken about being able to adapt to certain parts of the game, not hiding during the game, you know, that type of thing. And Bruno and Eriksen give us the freedom, don't they? They give us that fluidity. Marcus, I was asked a question pre-season, before pre-season actually, what I thought Ten Hag's goals should be. Again, Mr. Ton and Reese was on the same show as us, and I said I'd like us to string 10 games together, winning matches. We've done 4. We've got 6 to go. Where do you think we are in our evolution of maybe achieving that with the squad that we've got? Tough question, I know. I know it's a hard question, but...
Yeah, I think we're still very, very early on. But one thing I think everybody should take into account when analyzing any team in the world is that you shouldn't just look at tactics. You should also look at team shape. You should also look at player mentality. And I think when you look at those two latter things, there has definitely been a change. For example, when it comes to team shape, we're now playing with inverted fullbacks. If you actually look at our shape when we are transitioning into attack, a lot of the time you'll see either Delo or Malacia pushing a lot further up than the other. So if Malacia is pushing up, for example, Delo will be slightly more passive. And that's not something that we did under the previous manager. That's clearly a Ten Hag thing. Another example is, generally speaking, when we're attacking, there tends to be one player sitting, whereas under Oli and under Ranić, to a certain extent, we always had 2 players in the pivot. It almost seemed like 2 players were doing the same thing interchangeably, whereas now it seems like there's always one person. So ignoring today, against Brentford, for example, Eriksen was the one dropping deep into the pivot. Against Brighton on the opening day, Fred was the one dropping into the pivot, and we've seen a different face in that position every single game. So that's another clear example of evolution. You can also look at the attack and say, well, for the first time, it's not the first time, Oli tried Rashford playing in the number 9. But we're seeing Rashford playing the number 9 and being asked to come in deep. And he's done that a couple of times. Against Leicester, he pinged a really good ball over to Anthony Elanga. But unfortunately, he was alone up front and he didn't have any help. And so he couldn't really produce anything from it. There was another example of that today. It didn't really lead to anything because most of Rashford's goals came from passes from either Sancho or Bruno. But you get the point. So basically what I'm trying to say is we've seen the groundwork of Erik ten Hag that Erik ten Hag is putting together. So I think we're seeing the foundation. That the interesting thing is going to see what comes next, because I agree with Richie and whoever also said it on the show that we're not controlling games enough. And there is still a lot of concerns in that midfield. I agree that Eriksen and Bruno have played well. I'm not convinced that they bring out the best in each other. It looks good now because we've won 4 games on the bounce. But as soon as things start to go wrong, it will be interesting to see what Ten Hag does. Also, when Casemiro inevitably comes into the team, it'll be interesting to see how the dynamic changes. But I think so far we're in the primitive stages of Erik ten Hag's tenure, and it's nice to see us actually beat a good team. You know, it's a pretty good sign. I mean, Arsenal, they're the August Invincibles, best team in the league. You know, champions. They're going to win the treble and all that lot, and we beat them 3-1. So that's a good sign.
We did beat them 3-1. Mr. Ton, what do you think about that? Where do you think we are in Ten Hag's evolution? Now, the reason I ask you this is because you've studied Ten Hag in great depth. You've been, really instrumental in advising and really talking to Man United fans about what we can expect. Where are you in your expectations of what you've seen from Ten Hag and where we may be able to go in the next, say, 6 matches?
it's hard to tell right now because he alluded. There's an interview. I don't know if anyone's watched it on YouTube. I don't know. I don't think they showed it before the game on Sky Sports, and he alluded to about how he's going to rotate, and he hasn't found his actually final starting 11, and he said eventually after that rotating, he will find his starting 11. That's what he said in the interview. So it's quite interesting to see how what's it's going to look like. The back four, I don't think it's going to change much. Will the goalkeeper change much? Question mark. We don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like the midfield could change. The Casemiro thing, I sort of had a feeling about this, that when we got him, it wasn't like a Ten Hag, boom, yes, I won. And when I read the report the other day from the Athletic, it did state that that was a recruitment team or whoever the board, whoever, that was them throwing it at Ten Hag, and Ten Hag, yes, approved it, but it wasn't something he said, yeah, go get me Casemiro, which might explain why he's not starting straight off the bat like Lissandro and Antony. So he did mention it before the game. He needs to understand my system. So it's quite, I've always said it, there's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. I don't know if Stu and Reece remember. So stage 1, implementing style of play, changing the culture, changing the ethos, all of that. And he's doing that so far. He is doing that. The style of play is going to come. It's not just going to, TikTok overnight. We did lose 2, in a way for us as fans, it was a big defeat. And what I said before, and I don't know if Trino remembers, I said on the space, you don't always need your captain to lead. Your manager should be the leader. And what I like personally is the day after the when they lost and they done the running, that Ten Hag did the running with them. That shows that we win, lose, draw, all together. We're all in this. So even if you lose, it's not your fault, it's my fault because I done some things wrong. So I'm pretty sure if you go through them runs with that manager, you're gonna run harder for him on the pitch because he's doing that hard labor with you. Do you know what I mean? So it just gives you a bit more ethos and a bit more energy to fight for that manager, which I'm happy where we are. I'll be honest, I'm not happy obviously with the midfield situation and overall situation. I've gone back and looked at footage of the games. I'll be honest, this is my opinion. Bruno's been really poor. Really poor. Yes, he's come up with a goal. Yes, he's come up with assists. But overall in games, he's been poor. At first glance, I thought Ericsson wasn't the greatest. I don't know if you can still hear me. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
So I didn't think Ericsson was the greatest, but when I looked back, Ericsson does a lot of good things to keep us ticking. I'll be honest with you, I'm not his biggest fan, but when I looked back at the foot, I'm like, oh, wow, I'm surprised. And it's like he knows in moments when to play a 1-2 and keep it simple, and then when to go long. Like, honestly, when you watch the game back, because first you watch it with emotions, and then when you watch the game back and over, you see all the little tactical things. You're like, okay, now. And that's what I've been doing for a long time. So I always do that, and that's how I analyze the game. So, like I said, that I don't know how he's gonna blend that midfield for us to gain that control. That is gonna. Oh, the Rashford thing as well. That's going to be interesting. Is he going to keep Rashford as a striker? Because he does stretch the play really well. Hold up play, not the greatest. And this has been my concerns with Martial. Martial doesn't stretch the play. He wants to come
to the left. I think he does.
What'd you say?
When he goes to the left, I think he stretches the play. I don't think he did brilliant as a striker today, to be honest.
When I say stretch,
when Ronaldo came on, I thought he did, but
I mean more like a target man, because that's what, if you look at the profile strikers we was aiming for, that's what Ten Hag wanted. And then he alluded to it after the what game was it? It was after the game, and he was like, at halftime, he told Rashford to be more of a target man. That's what he likes from his striker. So it's going to be to see what happens. Like I said, he alluded this is not his final 11. Eventually he's going to get there. It's going to be interesting to see who comes out, what happens, because Rashford he's not been the greatest overall, but then from a striker, if you look at Haller didn't do the greatest things. Like, most of his touches was in the box. He didn't do nothing special in the game. He just scored goals or assisted or done a little header off. He didn't do much, I'll be honest with people. Like, tactically as well, it's literally, I'm going to say this for people that might not know this, tactically, if people understand basketball or anything NFL, Ten Hag has pulled his playbook over from Ajax and he's literally implementing it. If anyone's seen on a timeline, there's someone even on a graph of it, the exact same tactics of where the players on the pitches, the triangles, it's the same thing. It's literally the same thing.
Just on the Rashford thing at the minute, I don't think he fits a Ten Hag system in terms of if Ten Hag gets exactly the way in which he wants to play. We saw it in the first 10-15 minutes in that game where United were passing the ball around, and I was like, wow, this and Mr. Ton said it there, that was the best we've seen United play for years. It was like, and I think Ten Hag kind of admitted it himself, it was best he'd kind of seen the team play since he's been there. They were really controlling the ball really well, and I just want to kind of switch on to Sancho really, because I think he's gone. I don't want to dwell on negatives, but he was so quiet today, so quiet, almost so quiet that people have actually forgot to criticise him today. And I don't want to say dwell on criticising him, but what I mean is I just hope that. I think the reason he was not necessarily poor in terms of he did anything wrong, I think it was just the fact that the system didn't necessarily suit him to a degree. And so he was isolated, and it kind of happened with Antony a little bit. And you just worry that if we're going to be playing to this style where we do like it, kind of a counter attacking, which is kind of the style we're going to have to play this season, it's not going to suit Sancho and Antony like that. And I worry Stu really in that regard. In terms of how it's played out in the minute, I think it fits Rashford, but I think longer term, if Ten Hag wants to play the way that he wants to play, which is possessive type football, I think Rashford's going to struggle to find his mark.
Sure. We'll touch on that a bit later, because I wanted to touch on the defence, and I want to open this question up to the whole panel really. Carl was right in what he said about both Varane and Martinez let our good old friend Jesus know exactly where they were in the first 30 seconds. Then Jesus bullied Varane and bullied Martinez to an extent. So I just wanted to get your ideas. It doesn't matter who starts. Anyone can jump in. How you thought the whole of the defence performed today. I thought Malacia had a tough time as well on occasions. I thought Dalot was caught again on occasions. But I'm just interested to know what you all thought about defence as a whole.
I think my worry, do you know what? I wasn't particularly worried about that. I mean, the term bullying was probably a little bit strong, but I get where it comes from. I actually feel like the best way I could describe it was Jesus caused a lot of problems for the defence, yet still did nothing. I still thought he caused problems for him, but I don't feel like he caused problems to the point where we were worried he was going to score. I thought within the first 5 minutes, Martinez flattened him. I thought the next 5 minutes, Varane flattened him. I was more worried about the full-backs than the centre-backs, I think, today. Malacia started to show a couple of weaknesses, which is fine. After 4 or 5 games in, he's showing his first signs of weaknesses as a United left-back. I'm not too worried. That I'm sure can be coached out of and he can improve. I still have many reservations about Dalot. I think a lot of people probably do. I think Dalot's doing okay. I just still think it's probably one of the positions I still think we were probably 3 signings away this summer. I think another midfielder was needed. I think a striker was needed, and I think a right back was one of the ones that was needed. Ultimately, it seems like for whatever reason, Ten Hag prefers Dalot to Wan-Bissaka. It seems like there wasn't enough room in the budget to sign another right back, which is fine. We've got what we've got. Look, I don't think the defence did bad today. I think there was definitely room for improvement, and I think we know we're behind the likes of City at the minute. I don't want to say we're behind Liverpool, because I think that Liverpool's start to this season has been abysmal, to be fair, and actually quite funny, to be honest. I actually am quite surprised at how bad they've been. I think their strength in depth's quite poor, actually, but that's another debate. I think this season's going to throw up a lot of surprises, and I think we could genuinely see a very surprising front 6 in the league. Whatever order that is, I don't know, but I really do think, that comment kind of says it all. I think there's a mistake in the fullbacks at the minute. Malacia, you can give the benefit of the doubt to. I think new signing, coming to a new league, quite young. You can give that to him. Dalot probably the same to an extent, but I think he's been here longer and had a lot more experience than Malacia, so I can sort of understand that there's a little bit less patience with him. But I'm happy to give patience to the Delo now under Ten Hag, because I think Ten Hag clearly sees something in him where he can probably coach a very good good right back out of him. I'm much less worried about Martinez and Varane, and I think the fact that Lindelof and Maguire can still come in says that I think the 4 centre backs we have at Man United, I could probably trust in. Malacia I'm very impressed by, but obviously I don't have as much trust in him as yet. That could probably come, of course, but I think the defence did okay, but there's definitely room for improvement, especially against better sides than Arsenal. However many better sides there are in the league, I suppose that's all for a debate, but there's definitely room for improvement across probably the whole squad, not just the defence.
Marcus, you wanted to pop in, mate?
Yeah, I was going to say on our defense, I think another thing to bear in mind again is like how young these players are. I mean, I know people forget, but Delo is still a relatively young player. And on Malacia, I mean, as I said earlier on a different show, like I think the way he's conducted himself since arriving at Old Trafford has been nothing short of magnificent for a young player. Like, genuinely speaking, he looks confident. There's never a moment apart from today where I think perhaps he doesn't know what he should be doing, what the manager wants. He clearly understands the manager's instructions. He clearly has a very good work rate. And on top of that, he's got the technical ability to match it. But today we saw that even with all those things, you still need experience. Even with all that, intelligence, technical ability, etc., you still need experience at this level. And Saka had him on toast today. Saka had him on toast, and Martinelli had Delo on toast. And as for Gabriel Jesus, like I've said this before, like the thing about Gabriel Jesus is a striker like him only works if your inside forwards score a lot of goals. And I think the biggest problem for Arsenal today, and I was actually looking at, I know some people aren't big on stats, but I was looking at the chances that each team had. Even though Arsenal had more shots than us. Yeah, even though Arsenal had more shots than us, when you look at where their shots came from versus where United's shots came from, it's quite interesting because a lot of their shots came from outside the box, which tells you that they're not getting the ball into the box. And that's obvious because Jesus is not a fox in the box. He's a hold-up guy. He's a technical guy. So obviously he's not going to be the guy who's in the edge of the box, which means Arsenal are relying on Martinelli and Saka. And the only reason I bring this up is Jesus wasn't a threat today. I think if Arsenal had a proper number 9, a goal-scoring 9, they could have really did a lot of damage today, but their team just wasn't set up to take full advantage, in my opinion. So, yeah. But anyways, I thought Varane, for his standards, wasn't great. I thought Martinez was probably the best of our defenders today. And that moment, I think it was in the 23rd minute, where he nearly committed on Saka and nearly gave away a penalty, but he was intelligent enough to stop himself. That moment showed me that Martinez is a solid centre back. You can have the aggression, you can have the pace, but do you have the mindset to be able to stop yourself in the big moments from making a mistake that could potentially cost your team 3 points and get you sent off? And Martinez today showed me, he showed me today that I can trust him. He showed me today that, we don't have to worry about him.
He's taken a leaf out of my book there, Marcus. I used to do that on a regular basis. Well, I had the foresight to not give any pens away.
I think, I think saying, I don't think showing that he could trust you was a bit, I don't know if that was quite true. I mean, I like the fact that he tried to stamp on every Arsenal player, but I think it's probably the wrong word in that. Like there was probably a couple of moments where I thought he may have been sent off. Not as strong as probably Van Dijk yesterday, but it was like that first few minutes where he literally just stamped on Jesus was that
was good.
I mean, it was questionable, put it that way.
I mean, he's the butcher for a reason. He loves a bit of aggression, so he is an aggressive defender. But you need that at least in one of your centre back partnerships.
You've got to be aggressive as a defender because you just get stomped on otherwise. You can't.
I think
there's difference.
I think as well as any sort of back four, you need to have a good midfield, a controlling midfield in front of you as well. If you're constantly under pressure, you're constantly dealing with aerial balls, constantly making tackles, constantly running back. It's demoralising. You'll know, Stu. It's like a mental battle playing in defence more than it is anything else. So if you've got a team in front of you that are controlling the ball, and you might have to deal with half as many tackles or aerial duels as you would do, if you didn't have the ball, straight away you're far more confident, and obviously you're going to make fewer mistakes. So it's just controlling the game. They obviously had a little bit more pressure today than they had in the last game against Leicester. So it was was just one of them, wasn't it? Just kind of, they had more to do. I thought they dealt with it pretty well. I think Malacia, let's be honest, Saka's no slouch, and he's not exactly been
good player.
He's a very good player, and he's very quick. So yeah, he got beat a couple of times today, but to be fair, the rest of the back four kind of helped him out a little bit, and that's what you need to do with your centre half on that side. They cover for you a little bit.
Yeah.
And thought Martinez did really, really well. Thought Varane, didn't have a great game, but his game's more about kind of being that Rio Ferdinand, and he's that clever, possessive type defender as well. He gets you moving forward, and that's why Martinez is there to kind of be as Marcus said there, his nickname's a butcher, so he's there to put in the big tackles. But you just worry whether he's got a little bit of a heads gone moment in situations where you think, if that in the first 5 minutes is a red card. I know it wasn't a bad tackle, but I mean, if he gives away a free kick there and they score from that, then you'd be cursing him, wouldn't you? And it's kind of simmer the emotions down just a little bit and cool down and let us play into the game. So yeah, it's good signs we're getting through, aren't we? It would have been nice to get a clean sheet, but it is what it is. But I think there's good signs in there, isn't there? To be fair, what I want to talk about, Stu, I don't know if you want to. I mean, I'll let the rest of the guys talk about it. But
I just want to get Rich and Mr. Ton's version of the defence, and then I want to come straight back to you, Reese, because I want you to elaborate on your Sancho comment. Because, to be honest, fella, that's exactly what I saw. And I spoke to Marcus earlier, and I thought he was anonymous today, only because the way that we were playing. But I want to talk to you about that a bit. So, Rich, just give us your thoughts on defence, and then straight in, Mr. Ton, if that's all right, pal.
Yeah, go on. With our defence, I thought Saka had a couple of got the better of obviously Malacia a couple of times. Other than that, I didn't think he did much personally. The defence with. I'm comfortable with the defence. I'm not on edge with any of them. I don't really rate Delo as much, but I have seen improvements in him. Obviously, where they got the goal, I think it was where they ran through, where he was out of position. I think that's it really with the defence. But most of the time, where I was uneasy today was when Harry Maguire came on. Personally, he could have gave away 2 penalties himself in just a short time he was on. But with the defence, I ain't got no problems with any of them at the moment. Obviously, we can upgrade the right back, but I'm happy with them all.
Cool, Mr. Tom.
I'll be honest. Yes, they had their little errors and their little moments, and that's what happens with defenders and defensive. They're not always going to be perfect. But still, at no point was I scared. Like, oh, my defense is going to do something silly. And even Ten Hag said it. He never felt like Arsenal was going to crack us like that. And that's how I felt ever since this back four has been installed. I'll be honest with you, Rich Chanel knows that. That's how I felt. I've never said it on the panel the other day. I don't feel like we're going to concede so many goals. Maybe one, but I don't feel like we're going to get spanked for 3, 4, 5. I don't see it happening. I generally don't. The way that Lissandro carries himself, it's like, yes, they might make a mistake, but it's like they make up for it in the next action. Yes, Malacia might make a mistake like he done today, but then he'll make up for it in a different action. Same with Dalot. Dalot made a couple of mistakes, but also he made some good recovery actions. It's like I've said, they recover the situations. And I don't feel rocky at any point. I'll be honest with you. I agree with Janelle. When Maguire come on, I see the timeline. I see people. He did. It just looked like a man that wasn't playing with a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He did look shaky and a bit nervy. But like I said, this back four doesn't. I'm not concerned about the back four. Maybe the rest of the team are more concerned about the back four. Honestly, doesn't, because it's the best part of the team for me right now. The back four. The goalkeeper concerns me more. Like, if you look at the Leicester game, and we had so many opportunities where the goalkeeper, there was plays he could have played, the pass. He just go long. I'm like, what? He concerns me more, I'll be honest with you, than the back four.
Can't even be asked.
No, we don't. Reece, you wanted to bring up Harry?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like digging out any sort of players. I mean, we talk about players, we criticise players' performances, but in terms of when it gets personal, I'm not really about that. Not at all.
Yeah.
So obviously the guy's like well low down on confidence and kind of what's going through his head and personal space at the minute must be pretty shit. But I just when the guy came on today, and I just kind of wanted to ask the rest of the guys in terms of where we go with Maguire now, because to fall off the perch that he was currently on or previously on, it's quite a big fall. You know, it's not like he's just been in the first team and, you know, Martinez has come in and he's kind of lost his place. You know, he's the captain of this team, one of the biggest team in European football, and it's to sort of go through kind of all the memes that he's been going through for the last year and 2 years, and then to lose a captaincy quite abruptly, really, because it seemed like Ten Hag was kind of favouring him, and at one point it seemed like he was on his side, and then obviously he's kind of lost it off the back of the opening two games. I just kind of wonder kind of what the guys' feelings were on Maguire, and whether he will accept a kind of a rotational sort of role, or whether it's kind of like it is done in terms of, because he came on today, he just like the boys said there, there was like an air of like cautiousness in the Old Trafford where they were like, oh God, what's happening? He just looked unsure of himself. But yeah, sorry, I'll let the lads take over on that.
Am I the only one that thought Maguire didn't do bad today?
No, I didn't think he did too bad.
I thought he came on and gave a foul away that was probably quite needed, and he took the yellow card for. And he blocked a run that could or could not have been given as a foul. But other than that, I don't really think he did anything. I
thought he did okay.
I don't actually think he needs to even be mentioned today. I feel like he was kind of just there, and he came on and did a job for 10 minutes. I'm not Maguire's biggest fan. I've said that a lot of times, but I think when it comes to a point where we seem to mention Maguire just for the sake of mentioning him, I'm not saying you're doing that, Reece. I'm just saying I think there seems to be a question in this fan base sometimes, especially on Twitter, that whenever anything seems to go wrong, it seems to be Maguire's fault. And trust me, I've been there and I've said it in the past, especially when he's played, but I don't think he did anything wrong today to even have his name mentioned. His confidence does look low, but I think when you're coming into the team and somebody's taken your spot effectively, you can kind of understand why his confidence looks shot. And at the end of the day, he's not been good enough for Man United, and he's certainly not been anywhere near captain material. I personally don't think he should be a Man United captain, and good God, how he ever even got it in the first place, I don't know. But I think what he did today was he came on and he tripped up an Arsenal player because they got away from whoever it was. And
Casemiro was his
just that part there.
He got away from him and managed to give away a free kick, took the yellow card, and then they ended up blasting the ball over the bar.
But I believe that just that part there, where when Casemiro gave the ball away, Maguire should have came forward. He should have came forward to the attacker. He was just backing off, which gave the attacker more space. So for me, that foul he gave away was something he didn't need to do. If he had came and approached the centre forward at the start, limited the space where he could then move himself, win the ball there, he didn't need to go and back up, and then obviously commit the foul. That's why I just don't think he's good enough. I'll be honest.
There's no saying he's not good enough, but I feel like it's hitting a point now where people are nitpicking. He can't know when Casemiro's going to make that mistake. That's not Maguire's fault, unfortunately. Like, Casemiro did lose the ball, and unfortunately, Maguire wasn't in that space. But he can't assume Casemiro's going to make that mistake. The ball wasn't there for Maguire to even be in that position. At the end of the day,
no. But what I meant was, obviously, Casemiro lost the ball. Maguire saw that, so he should have been coming forward because instead of letting the man run at him.
But he did do it, and then he gave the foul away. This is what my point is.
Yeah, but I'm not done that when he had no other space.
I don't think he's good enough either. But I think this is what I'm saying. I feel like people are nitpicking on him. I feel like he used experience there to actually do a valuable thing. It
wasn't necessarily his performance today. That wasn't necessarily the reason for me asking the question. It was more just to kind of understand whether we feel as if, bearing in mind, this is a guy who's in England starter as well. We've got a World Cup coming up. Do we feel, or does he feel? You also right?
I said fuck England. I don't care about England.
No, but what I'm saying is, do we feel like this guy's going to come back into the team? Bearing in mind, we've just been talking about the back four and whether we feel like it's kind of.
Marcus, I know you wanted to say something, pal.
Yeah, I think with Harry Maguire, I mean, it's simple. You're at a Manchester United football club. You're not at a charity. When Varane is fit, he's going to play because he's been the better player this season. It's not that deep. On Maguire's confidence, yes, his confidence will be shook. I think, as like I said this about a different player earlier today that's completely unrelated to this topic, but people forget that these professional footballers are human beings. It doesn't matter how much money you have, doesn't matter how much fame you have, doesn't matter what your status is. You can never escape the problems of being a human being and mental health. And when you are somebody who started under the previous manager, game in, game out, regardless of your performances, and you were led to believe that you were an integral part of the team, and then suddenly a new manager comes in and strips you of that, it's going to take a toll on you, especially when you're playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world and you've got people who literally will come into your comments and leave vile stuff about a wedding photo, mind you. It's going to take a toll on you. So I think that with Harry Maguire, yes, we do need to be a little bit more mindful about him. And by the way, what Callum said about over scrutinizing his mistakes, you see this with other players as well. Like, I've never seen, like, when Bruno loses the ball or Bruno does something bad in a game, I've never seen that with any other Manchester United midfielders apart from maybe Scott McTominay, where there's literally compilations on Twitter of their mistakes as if other midfielders don't make mistakes. You know, one of the common things you'll hear about Bruno Fernandes is he loses the ball a lot. And the funny thing is, Christian Eriksen, who's become the anti-Bruno, lost the ball more on average than him last season. But you won't hear these haters say that. And the only reason I bring that up is to say, you know, it's not just Harry Maguire. We see this with other players in the team. People over-scrutinize their mistakes, and it becomes a habit to do it even when it's not necessary. You know, like Harry Maguire is not...
I'm sorry. Like, sorry, Richard. I just want to say this, right? We need to be mindful about Maguire. He's not been shot. He's not been good enough, and he's been dropped for better players at centre-back. Like,
and that's the thing.
He's not being good enough, so he's been dropped so better players can take his place. If the guy wants to be the starting centre-back again, put your ideas up and get back in the squad. Stop.
He's got to do more than that. I'll be honest.
Responsibility for how not good you've been as captain of the football club. And
he's got to do more than that.
No, you're right as well, Marcus. That he is over scrutinised, which is why I just said I feel like people are nitpicking, especially after today. I'm not saying all season.
I think what it is as well, Marcus, where you mentioned obviously the Bruno giving away the ball. I don't think people are judging him for giving away the ball. It's where he's giving it away. It's how he's giving it away. Where Eriksen, you can see he gives it away, but it's not in the same areas as where Bruno's giving it away. So I think that's where you can give him a little bit more leeway than Bruno.
I understand that point, and that's a very constructive and logical point. But what you get on Twitter is not constructive. What you get on Twitter is not logical. What you get on Twitter is, I'm going to point out Bruno's mistakes and only Bruno's mistakes. I'm never going to talk about when Eriksen does something wrong. I'm never going to talk about when Martial does something wrong because he's the glue and he's my favorite player. I'm never going to talk about when this player does it because I'm that player FC. No, I'm going to talk about Bruno and Bruno only. Oh, and I'll occasionally tweet about Maguire for a couple of thousand likes when, you know, he posts a wedding photo with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, which has nothing to do with football, by the way. That's the issue. There's a deep-seated hatred for these players, and it's so clear. A good analyst looks at a football player and says, hey, this is the issue with them on the footballing pitch. And I personally think this player should be starting because of these reasons. But you don't get that with some fans. You just get, Bruno, he's lucky to be playing in the Premier League.
Marcus, I don't think that's just Twitter, though. And this is what I don't like when people use that narrative, because, like, I call it, I go to my local barbershop. We have the same conversations. I go wherever, a pub, same conversations. It doesn't matter where you are, you have the same conversations. It's just on Twitter, there is this people with avies. So then they become a player FC, if that makes sense. They become whatever. No,
that's true.
But
that's true.
When it comes to me, and Reese has probably heard me on Spaces, I'm very constructive and objective when I'm talking about players. And like, I analyze a game, I go back, take a notepad out and I watched it 4 or 5 games for a reason. I've been doing this for years. I've played football. I've coached kids. There's a reason why I do what I do on Twitter, personally, for me. So when I'm talking about football, I'm coming from a logical point of view, adding the context of, okay, Kevin De Bruyne might lose the ball, but you see when he loses the ball, he's trying to thread the pass. He's not trying to beat a man and he knows he's not press resistant, like what Bruno tries to do sometimes. So, do you get what I'm trying to say? There's more context to it when you're explaining the situation.
Yeah.
So
I get
that's
you.
what
100%.
that's what you got to be careful with. You can't segregate everybody on Twitter, because I'm on Twitter and Reece knows nearly every day. So when you say them comments, it's like you're segregating all of us, if that makes sense. When there's people like me that are very objective and balanced with my view. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
I agree.
I remember I got into a debate with someone and I tried to explain to them one of the Maguire's biggest issue. It's not even everything what everyone says. It's his lack of communication. Then Ten Hag dropped him, and when he got asked why, he said, "Varane's a winner and he's a good communicator." That's what I use for my argument. And then when Varane even spoke about it, he said, "I communicate good." That's how I talk about football objectively. Now, Varane's very good at English.
Look what you started. Hey lads, that was it. That was a cracking debate. It was a really good debate. That was. Yeah, go on.
I'll keep it brief. Like I completely agree that Maguire is not good enough to play for United, and you see that's the thing. Like that's not what we're talking about. Like yes, you can spend an hour talking about why Maguire is bad. You know, I'm not defending Maguire and saying he should be starting. All I'm saying is there's a lot of over scrutiny, and it gets to a point where it's not even constructive anymore, because it's like. Like it's like you're judging a fish on its ability to fly. You know what I mean? Like we know Maguire's not good. We know Maguire's not quick. We know Maguire's reaction speeds are pretty slow. So it's like, did you really need to say that after we win a game 3-1? You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. That's the frustration. And it's not just Maguire. Like it happens with other players. And like you said, it's not just a Twitter thing. You know, it's just that I happen to be on Twitter, so I see it there. But yeah, it's a thing in society in general, and it needs to stop, man. Like just chill. It's football. Enjoy it. You know what I'm saying?
Trust me, I'm from London, man. All the Arsenal, Spurs, Chelsea fans, they bashing at it. Trust me, it's horrendous.
Guys, yeah, that was a great debate. That was. I funnily enough, as a centre half, I quite like Maguire. I can see what he tries to do, and believe it or not, with a Casemiro type player in front of him, you will see a different animal. As per when indeed he was playing in front of him for Leicester, you will see a different animal. But look, you can't deny where we are with our centre-back combination at the moment. It's the right fit for where we are currently, and that's how you move forward. So, I agree with everybody's point. It's a brilliant one. Guys, there's loads of you watching. Please like and subscribe.
I was going to say, there's only 21 people liked it. It's 54 now, so make sure everyone else is liking it as well.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant, guys. We really, really appreciate your support. Thanks for that. I want to go back to final topic, really. I want to go back to what Reece said, because Reece was absolutely on the button when he was talking about Sancho. And I think everybody on the panel would agree with Reece in terms of he was relatively anonymous today in terms of when he had the ball, his use of the ball. Not that he had it a lot, and his overall movement within the pitch. And I'm just wondering, and again, we'll open this to the floor. We'll perhaps start with you, Marcus. What everybody thought of Sancho and what people thought of Reece's comments, because I think Reece was right. I don't often agree with you, Reece, do we? No, I'm only joking. But
there's not a lot of people I do.
Yeah. No, we do agree. But I thought you were right on this, mate, because it's something I've noticed, and me and Marcus had a conversation about this also earlier. So that's why I've gone to Marcus.
Yeah, we spoke earlier, and I prematurely gave Sancho a 7 out of 10. But upon reflection, actually, he was quite anonymous. And you know what it is? It's because we played so well going forward. I know obviously Arsenal were the better team for large parts, but we did play well for spells. And I almost forgot about Jadon Sancho, if I'm being completely honest with you. The only thing I remember was the little interplay between him and Eriksen at the beginning of the game, and then obviously his involvement in the first goal, because obviously he passed to Rashford, then Rashford passed it to Antony, and then the rest is history. But apart from that, he just wasn't there. Now, I don't think he was terrible. I just think it was two things. One, the fact that I don't think Malacia had a great game going forward. So and our midfield as well at parts was struggling to get the ball up the field. So that left-hand side was just dead in general. I don't think it's Sancho's fault specifically. And the second thing is also the fact that because Arsenal dominated majority of the possession, especially in the second half before Mikel Arteta made those substitutions, we just couldn't get the ball to either of our flanks. So it wasn't just Sancho. There was a period in the game where both flanks were just kind of dead. So that's just my thoughts on it.
Cal?
Again, I don't think Sancho was great today. I don't think he was bad though. I think other players kind of picked up the slack. You know, obviously Rashford was really good. Antony came in and did well. Eriksen and Bruno picked up the slack. They played well. I actually thought Malacia was okay going forward today. I thought Delot was all right. You know, Sancho's been good recently. He wasn't amazing today. At the end of the day, we won the game 3-1, and I think we were. In hindsight, you know, Arsenal were good. We were good. I just think we were probably a little bit better. Sancho was okay. He wasn't amazing though. I don't really want to sound all amazing analysis, but he was all right. I don't really know what else to say about him. He was okay.
No, that's good coming from you, because me and you had a conversation when I was underwhelmed, if you remember, about the Sancho signing.
To be fair, Stu, he has been a little bit underwhelming. But to be fair, over the past 12 to 18 months.
The whole squad has, the whole team has.
Everybody has, and all of a sudden, Ten Hag's come in, and especially over the past 3-4 weeks, he started every game. He's scored. He's put a few balls in the box, and he's actually looked quite threatening. So we played today against a good Arsenal team who probably saw how well he was doing and focused on nullifying him. And at the end of the day, it probably worked. But ultimately, other players came in and showed their strengths, and it ended up leading to us winning 3-1. Like, I thought Sancho was okay. I didn't think he was bad. I just don't think he was good. But like I say, others picked up the slack, which is what you want. When a player doesn't do well, you expect your other good players to pick up that. And because that's why you have good talents in your squad. That's why you have good players in your squad, because you want everyone to play well for when others aren't. So
yeah, no, I totally agreed.
Yeah, he wasn't bad.
Mr. Tom, your thoughts on Sancho?
He's been hit and miss at the start of the season. One of my main concerns with Sancho has been, I can't remember what game it was, but there was like, he was getting doubled up and tripled up. It's sort of a theme that happened last season. And I've always been about improving the team so then he's not in those scenarios, because I used to see it with Pogba get doubled up because they know there's not a better player or better option. When you have more better players on the team, a team can't double up or triple up on a player. So what happened today, like I said, he's been hit and miss all season. But if you look through Sancho's history, he doesn't normally start off seasons well. Even at Dortmund, he never starts off seasons well. But one thing that I did notice today, a lot of our football, and it might just be because they wanted to give Antony the ball, but they tried to give Antony the ball a lot. And I know a lot of it at early stage was trying to come through the right. But I feel like that Antony being there will help actually Sancho, I'll be honest to you, because then, and also Rashford, if he carries on in this form, because then people are going to then try double up on Rashford or try double up on Antony, then Sancho's going to be free. It helps. And this is why when everyone's on form, you can't really try to triple up or double up one player. Because I've seen it. I've gone back and watched the footage. Even the Leicester game, it happened. They will double up on Sancho. And then at that time, in fact, it was 2 games back actually. So at the time, Ten Hag stopped pushing his fullbacks up. So he didn't have the overlap. Whereas in Leicester, early stage, if you remember, there was one, he had a chance. Malacia came round, done an overlap, and then Malacia crossed it. He needs that help as well. He needs his fullback to help him a lot. So I'm not concerned at the moment, personally, because I think the fact that he's got 2 goals in 6 games, I think it is, that's early good signs. He doesn't look like he's lacking confidence, I'll be honest with you. It's just
no, I'd agree with that.
It's just hit and miss. Like I said, early seasons, this is traditional Sancho. It doesn't really surprise me, man. But once he picks up form and the team pick up form and Antony becomes more of a threat, Rashford can keep on his form, somehow we can sort out the midfield, I'm pretty sure you're going to see a better Sancho, man. I'll be honest with you.
No, agreed. Reese, I'll give you the final word after Rich. And then, so Rich, your thoughts on Sancho, and then the final word with you, Reese.
Yeah, I just think it's kind of like what Tom said, basically. Sancho is in and out of games, especially early part of the season. If you have watched, obviously, Dortmund before, you would have seen that, especially the last season he was there. I'm really concerned about him, if I'm honest, because I think that there has been other players that have played just as bad in these few games. But he'll pick up as soon as season further down the season. You can look at it as well. Rashford scoring goals, but he's not really playing well, I don't think, anyway. But no one's going to talk about that because he's getting goals. People wasn't talking about Sancho, obviously, in and out of games when he scored against Liverpool the other week. So, do you know what I mean? But
it's a fair point. It's a fair point.
Yeah. So I'm not really really fussed at the moment. I know he's going to come good later on this season anyway.
Top man. And Reese, perhaps you could also answer Jarvis's question as well.
No, I don't think he will unless we have injuries to either. I mean, obviously Martial will be back, I assume, shortly as well, and I think Ten Hag probably wants to see him come back a little bit. I think that kind of fits his system a little better than kind of the system that he's playing now with Rashford down the middle, as much as Rashford probably wants to play there and he's scoring goals. But no, I don't think we'll see Ronaldo as a starter. I thought it was quite unusual that he came on as early as he did, to be fair, because I thought that there needed to be more control, and I thought seeing Fred early would have been the smarter move. But yeah, he brought him on. It was nice to see him on, and I don't know. I just think he needs to run a games to be back at a pace, and especially at his age. Yeah, I think coming on and trying to get 20 minutes, he's never really going to get that kind of be at his level that he needs to be at, and that's going to be a bit of a shame for him. But in terms of the final word on the game, and generally overall over the last few games, Stu, I think it's been it's great. It's positive. We're hard to beat. We're grinding out results. And I don't want to dwell on negatives. I didn't come to tonight's panel show to talk about the negatives. We're winning. It's just, from a Ten Hag's point of view, we spoke straight after the game on Sky, and he said, "Look, it's great. We'll celebrate this win. We've got a few hours till to the end of today, but tomorrow it's about the next game." And he's constantly talking about improving. So that's my only reason for talking about those aspects, because we know we're on the cusp of it going in the right direction now. We've been so used to playing shit and watching shite and losing games, and we're getting there. We're getting close to playing a bit better, to winning games. I'm not going to talk about expectations for the season. I really don't want to do that, because
no,
I don't know where we're at. But we're starting off brightly than we were expecting to see. Maybe not the 21, Cal, but then we'll. That would be a lovely expectation. But no, look, it's great to see he's building a good squad, and I think anything else, it's just confidence, seeing the confidence in the lads, seeing the fist pumping, seeing Old Trafford back booming again, because it was flat there last couple of games last season. I went to, and I just enjoy every game. That's the thing. I think we all got up this morning and we were all looking forward to watching the game. And I like that feeling, rather than thinking, oh, fucking hell, I got to watch another.
What's even better than that, though? Do you know what's even better than that? Getting up, looking forward to watching the game, and then actually winning that game.
Yeah.
And actually playing well and winning that game, and then looking forward to the next one. Like, it's a nice thing that we've not had for a while.
Generally, Cal,
and 4 wins on the bounce, man. Everyone should be happy. 4 wins on the bloody bounce.
I was in your spaces, Mr. Tom. I personified that Michael Jackson meme eating that popcorn, listening to your spaces after that game.
Just wait till we got 10 wins on the bounce, guys. It's
that's it.
Reece, Reece summed up really well, and his phrase was, "We're hard to beat." When was the last time we talked about a Manchester United team being hard to beat? So that's what football's about, guys. It's what we get up for. That's what we all want to play for on a Monday or a Wednesday when it's thrown it down with rain and you're tired from a day's work, but you can't wait to get out there with your mates and kick a ball around. You can't wait to go to Old Trafford. Like us, and the hundreds of people who watched us tonight, they can't wait to talk about our great club and what unites us. And I think we're finding now as fans, there's a lot more uniting us now than dividing us. 12 months ago, everything was divisive. We were all divided as a fan base. And I think we're all coming together. And it's guys like you, who give up your time to talk about our great club and interact with great fans. So I just want to thank each and every one of you. It's I hope I've stepped in quite well for you, Cal. It's great to see you back, mate. It really is. It's great to have Reese. It's the first time I've hosted Reese, and so it'll probably give me a rollicking about how rubbish I am. Rich, great to see you again, mate. Great to have you on board with us. Mr. Ton, as always, a pleasure. And you, Marcus, always a pleasure as well. And Cal, always a pleasure. Guys, I'm going to let Cal sign us off. But before he does, can you let everybody know your socials, where they can find you? Reese, if you can talk about upcoming shows that you've got. Cal, if you can let people know, when you might be back, or if you're still on a sabbatical. And Marcus, where people can see you. Richie, where people can see you. Any space, Mr. Tony's always available. So, Cal, over to you, pal.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, I'll let the lads plug any socials they got first. So, Reese, if you want to plug anything, mate, you fire away, and then we'll go to you, Richie, and you, Marcus, and you, Mr. Ton.
Yeah, just really quickly, I think we've got a show tomorrow. We do Anything Goes for All United. So, yeah, that's just a show tomorrow. I think it's at 9. So, yeah, if anybody was watching or around, catch us on that.
And follow him on Twitter on there. Go on you, Richie.
Yeah. My socials on the screen, at RichieTren10 on Twitter. But yeah, that's the only one that I use at the moment, any social media.
God, you don't flow this very well, Marcus. Go on.
Yeah, you can find me at Triple M. I make videos on YouTube daily talking about football, and I talk a lot of nonsense on Twitter, so you can follow me there as well.
Mr. Ton.
Fucking hell. You're at work.
Catch me on Twitter, Mr. Ton, Mr. CEO Ton, Twitter, Spaces, all of the stuff. Sometimes having a bit of banter, sometimes talking football. Last 24 hours, bantering Arsenal fans, you know what I mean? And then enjoying the aftermath. So yeah, catch me on Twitter for the rest of the week, bantering Arsenal fans. Excellent.
You can get me at Stu Woolley. I will be recording, by the way, a tactical preview. Review. Actually, we're doing the Arsenal game, thinking about it. Yeah, so Tuesday I'm going to record that. It'll probably drop Wednesday. So it'll be myself and Abdel. And I was going to ask Cal if he wanted to join us as a tactical guest. You're more than welcome.
You will have to ask me when it will be recorded if I'm free.
Yeah, well, I'll privately
take that offline, and I will let you know if I'm free. I would like to actually join because it was a good game today, I thought. But yeah, I won't mind it. It's just whether I'm free, mate. That's all.
Okay. Yeah, we'll sort it out.
But yeah. So catch everyone there. Catch obviously Stu on his reviews and previews. I'm sure there'll be more previews coming up. So, yeah, to be fair, I can't tell you if I'm going to be back hosting permanently quite yet. Unfortunately, life has got in the way at the moment, but it does feel good to be back. It's nice to be talking on a panel again, I guess. And it's good to be talking about United winning and not being negative like other people like to do. So, yeah, thanks for welcoming me back, everybody. Obviously, you can find my Twitter there at _Callum Stone. I had a little bit of a break from that as well, but I seem to be back tweeting about how much the Tories are pieces of shit and how good United are at the minute, which is quite nice to say. So keep following me on that. If you want to see more, obviously go over there. I do obviously have a blog as well, unitedroad.com. If you want to go follow that, that would be very nice of you. That'll come back regularly again. Like I say, just life got in the way. But yeah, thanks for everyone for watching. Stu's going to end the video because I haven't got it up on my screen in a second, so I will let him know when to do it. But thanks for watching, everybody. It's been actually a very high turnout of viewers tonight, which is always good to see. Like I say, I've had a bit of a... Stop being cringy, Mr. Tom. Yeah. Thanks for watching, everybody. It's nice to see quite a high viewership. It's always good to see everyone's support and comments and questions and things, even though I do like to avoid the comments when I can, because some people do my head in. I'll let Stu sort of monitor the comments and he can bring them up because I think he's aware of what annoys me and what doesn't. Yeah. But yeah, thanks for watching. It's good to be back. Follow everybody here. They do a lot of good stuff. Obviously, follow Marcus's YouTube and Mr. Ton Spaces and all the other relevant stuff that we like to do. Thanks for watching, and we will see you throughout the week for more videos. Thanks a lot. Bye.
See you guys. Ta-da.